The person you cannot stop thinking about may truly care about you in some way. Even if things between you feel unclear, confusing, or unfinished, there can still be a deeper reason why this person keeps appearing in your thoughts again and again. It does not always feel random. It does not always feel like something your mind is creating without meaning. Sometimes it feels like there is a quiet emotional thread that still exists inside you, even when life has moved forward on the outside. This is not only happening because you are lonely, bored, or emotionally weak. These thoughts can show up even when you are busy, even when your life is full of activity, and even when you are trying your best to focus on other things. It can feel like this person comes into your mind at moments when everything becomes quiet, when the world slows down, and when your thoughts are no longer fully occupied. Sometimes they appear in the small gaps between your thoughts, like when you are about to sleep and your mind is slowly relaxing. At other times, they show up suddenly during the day without warning. You might be working, talking to someone, or doing something ordinary, and then their face, their voice, or a memory connected to them simply appears in your awareness. It can feel like this happens without your permission. You may try to push the thoughts away. You may try to convince yourself that you should move on completely and stop thinking about them. You may remind yourself of distance, silence, confusion, or everything that has not been resolved between you. You may even question your own feelings and wonder if you are holding on to something that no longer exists in the same way. At times, you may feel strong and clear about letting go. Then, after some time, the thoughts return again, quietly and steadily, without effort. This can make you question your own mind. You may wonder why this person still feels important when there is no clear answer, no clear communication, or no clear direction between you. Even when you feel like you are done with it, even when you tell yourself that it should no longer matter, the thoughts can still return. This does not automatically mean something is wrong with you. It does not mean you are stuck or broken. It can simply mean that the emotional experience connected to this person has not fully settled inside you yet. Sometimes, emotional experiences do not end when the situation ends. They take longer to process. They stay inside memory and feeling until the mind and heart fully understand what happened. A connection can feel unfinished, even without words, even without a final conversation, and even without a clear ending. There are times when something between two people is felt deeply, but never fully expressed. It may never have been spoken in a clear way. It may never have been defined properly. Still, it leaves an impact. That impact can remain in your thoughts and emotions long after the situation changes on the outside. This does not always mean the other person is actively thinking about you in the same way. But it is also true that people carry emotions silently. Not everything someone feels is shown through actions or communication. Some people keep their emotions inside because they are unsure, confused, afraid, or emotionally overwhelmed. You might feel this connection in subtle ways. You may suddenly think of them during quiet moments. You may feel a wave of emotion without knowing why. Sometimes it feels like sadness, sometimes warmth, sometimes longing, and sometimes just a deep sense of memory that is hard to explain. Even when distance exists, emotionally or physically, the mind can still return to someone who had meaning in your life. This does not always follow logic. Emotional bonds are not always simple or direct. They are formed through shared experiences, feelings, memories, and moments that left an impact on your inner world. When someone continues to appear in your thoughts over time, it often means that something about that connection still feels unresolved inside you. Not necessarily unresolved in reality, but unresolved in how your mind and emotions have processed it. The story may feel like it does not have a clear ending in your inner experience. Human beings tend to struggle more with things that feel unfinished than with things that are clearly complete. When something is fully closed, even if it was painful, the mind eventually accepts it. But when something feels unclear, the mind may return to it again and again, trying to understand or find meaning. You may notice that this person comes to mind during important emotional moments. When something good happens, you may feel the wish to share it with them. When something funny or meaningful happens, your thoughts may naturally move toward them, as if they are still part of your emotional world. You might also wonder about them during quiet parts of your day. You may think about how they are feeling, what their life is like now, or whether they have changed. Even if your daily life is full, a part of your attention can still return to this person without effort. This kind of emotional pull does not always mean action will follow. It does not always mean both people are experiencing the same thing in the same way. It only shows that there was once a connection that left an impression on your emotional memory. What many people do not realize is that emotional bonds can continue in thought even after communication ends. Silence does not automatically erase emotional experience. Distance does not completely remove what was once felt deeply. Instead, it can leave space for reflection, memory, and inner processing. When two people connect in a meaningful way, that connection can leave a lasting impression on the mind. The mind does not only work with logic and time, it also works with emotion, meaning, and memory. This is why some thoughts return even without intention. If you are still thinking about someone, it may be because part of your inner world still feels that the story is not fully complete. This does not mean it must continue in the same way forever. It only means that your mind has not fully placed it into the past yet. Sometimes, strong emotional experiences sit between clarity and confusion. You may feel attachment and distance at the same time. You may feel connection and uncertainty together. This can create a loop of thoughts that returns often, especially during quiet or emotional moments. Fear can also play a role in emotional distance. One or both people may feel unsure about vulnerability. They may fear rejection, emotional pain, or making the wrong decision. Because of this, feelings may exist without being fully expressed. Some people carry emotional weight from past experiences. Some feel unsure about how to move forward. Some feel unready for emotional openness, even when they care deeply. This can create silence even when emotions are present internally. This is why situations like this often feel complicated. It is not always about lack of feeling. Sometimes it is about confusion, timing, emotional readiness, or personal struggles that are not visible from the outside. The mind often returns to what the heart has not fully understood yet. That is why thoughts about this person may appear when you are calm, when you are alone, or when your mind is not distracted. In those moments, emotions rise more easily and memories become clearer. Even if nothing changes externally, your internal experience continues to process what this connection meant to you. Over time, these thoughts may slowly reduce in intensity, or they may shift into a softer memory that no longer feels heavy. Not every connection is meant to continue in the same form. Some connections stay only as memories, lessons, or emotional experiences that shape how you understand relationships and yourself. They can change you without staying active in your life. What matters most is that your feelings are real in the sense that they were experienced deeply by you. Even confusion does not cancel what you felt. Even silence does not erase emotional meaning. Even distance does not fully remove the impact someone had on your inner world. If someone continues to appear in your thoughts, it is often because the emotional experience has not fully settled into acceptance yet. With time, understanding becomes clearer, and emotional intensity usually changes shape. You do not need to force yourself to forget quickly. You do not need to judge your thoughts harshly. The mind processes emotional experiences at its own pace. Some understanding comes slowly, through reflection and time rather than force. In many cases, the purpose of such connections is not always about permanence. Sometimes it is about emotional growth, awareness, and understanding your own capacity to feel deeply and form meaningful bonds. Even if things remain unclear, even if silence continues, and even if answers never fully arrive, the emotional experience itself still carries meaning in your personal story. At night, when everything becomes quiet and distractions fade away, the unconscious mind often feels more active. Thoughts that were hidden during the day can rise gently into awareness. During busy hours, the mind stays occupied with tasks, conversations, and responsibilities, so deeper emotions remain in the background. But when things slow down, the mind becomes more open, and certain memories or people can appear without warning. During the day, something similar can also happen. Even when you are focused on normal life, your attention can suddenly shift. A memory, a face, or a feeling connected to someone may come into your mind without any effort. It can feel automatic, like it arrives on its own, without you trying to create it. This can feel confusing, especially when it happens repeatedly. These thoughts often feel like they are not forced. They seem to arise naturally from deeper layers of emotion and memory. It is important to understand that not every thought is random, but not every thought is also a message or sign. Sometimes, the mind simply processes emotional experiences in its own way, especially those that left a strong impact. When memories of a certain person keep returning, it is not only about who they are. It is also about what you experienced while they were part of your life. The mind does not separate people from emotions easily. It connects faces, moments, feelings, and meaning into one experience that gets stored deeply inside. Sometimes a person can awaken emotions in you that were not fully active before. They may make you feel more alive, more open, or more emotionally aware. They may reflect parts of you that were quiet or hidden in other situations. Because of that, the connection can feel stronger than simple attraction or passing interest. When access to that emotional experience changes or ends, it can feel like something inside you is missing. Not because you lost yourself, but because your mind remembers how you felt during that time. This is why longing can sometimes feel deeper than expected. It is not always about the person alone, but also about the version of yourself that existed around them. Distance between two people who once shared emotional closeness often creates unanswered feelings. Sometimes it is not because love is absent, but because timing, fear, uncertainty, or personal struggles create separation. When something remains emotionally unfinished, the mind continues to revisit it in search of understanding. There can be a feeling that something is still unresolved. This feeling can be strong even without clear evidence. It is usually the emotional mind trying to make sense of experiences that did not reach a clear ending. When closure is missing, thoughts tend to return in cycles. At times, emotions can feel stable and calm, and you may believe you have moved forward. Then suddenly, a memory appears and brings back the same feelings again. This back-and-forth experience is common when emotional attachment has not fully settled inside the mind. It does not mean progress is not happening. It simply shows that emotions move in layers, not in a straight line. The conscious mind often tries to protect you by creating distance from painful or confusing emotions. At the same time, the emotional mind continues to hold on to what felt meaningful. Because these two parts of the mind do not always move together, inner conflict can arise. Healing is not about forcing yourself to erase memories or feelings. It is more about understanding why they are present and what they represent in your inner world. Sometimes, the mind holds on to a connection because it is still trying to process what it meant to you. In some cases, the connection remains in thought because something about it feels unfinished. It may not be unfinished in reality, but it can feel unfinished emotionally. The mind often struggles more with unclear endings than with complete ones, even if the complete ending was painful. People often think about those who once felt important to them during moments of joy or emotional significance. When something good happens, the mind naturally wants to share it with someone who once felt close. When something meaningful occurs, the memory of that person can appear automatically as part of that emotional response. Even in daily life, while staying busy, thoughts about someone can appear without warning. This does not always mean something is happening externally between both people. It often reflects internal emotional patterns, memory association, and unresolved emotional impressions. Emotional bonds do not always disappear immediately when communication stops. Silence does not erase shared emotional experience. Distance does not remove memory or emotional imprint. When something is felt deeply, it leaves a mark in the mind that can remain for a long time. When someone continues to appear in your thoughts over time, it often means your mind has not fully placed the experience into the past. It remains in a kind of emotional space where it still feels meaningful, even if the situation has changed externally. Human beings tend to struggle more with emotional uncertainty than with clear outcomes. When something is fully resolved, even if it is painful, the mind can eventually accept it. But when something remains unclear, the mind keeps returning to it, trying to find answers or meaning. You may notice that this person comes to mind during emotionally open moments. When life becomes quiet, or when your thoughts are not focused on external tasks, inner feelings become more noticeable. In those moments, memories and emotions can rise more easily. There may also be a sense of curiosity about how the other person is doing or what they might be feeling. This does not always mean a shared emotional state in real time. It simply reflects how memory and emotional attachment continue to exist within you. Emotional pull does not always lead to action. It does not guarantee mutual experience. It only shows that a connection once existed in a meaningful way and left an imprint on your emotional memory system. Many people misunderstand emotional attachment and assume it must always lead to visible outcomes. In reality, emotions can exist internally without being expressed outwardly. People may feel deeply but choose silence due to uncertainty, fear, or personal limitations. Fear often plays a large role in emotional distance. A person may care deeply but still hesitate to act. They may fear rejection, fear emotional pain, or fear that the situation will become too complicated. These fears can slow down or stop action, even when feelings exist. Past emotional experiences can also influence present behavior. Someone may carry unresolved pain from earlier relationships or life events. These experiences can affect how open they are, even when they feel a strong emotional connection. Sometimes, people also struggle with self-worth. They may feel they are not ready, not enough, or not stable enough for a meaningful connection. This can create hesitation even when they care about someone deeply. This is why emotional situations can feel confusing from the outside. It is not always about lack of feeling. Often, it is about inner conflict, timing, personal growth, and emotional readiness that is not visible to others. When emotions are strong, they can create internal pressure. A person may feel pulled toward connection, but also pulled away by fear or doubt. This internal tension creates hesitation, silence, or distance. In many cases, love is not absent during silence. Instead, it exists alongside uncertainty. It can be quiet, unspoken, and held internally rather than expressed openly. This does not make it less real, but it does make it less visible. However, it is also important not to assume certainty about what another person feels. The mind can create narratives when there is silence, but reality may be more complex and less clear than imagined. Emotional interpretation is not always the same as factual truth. What remains most consistent is your own experience. The thoughts you have, the emotions you feel, and the memories that return are part of your internal processing. They reflect how your mind has organized meaningful experiences, not necessarily what is happening externally at this moment. Sometimes these emotional experiences serve as lessons. They can help you understand attachment, emotional needs, boundaries, and personal growth. They can also show you how deeply you are capable of feeling and connecting with others. Over time, emotional intensity usually changes. Thoughts that once felt heavy may become lighter. Memories that once felt painful or confusing may turn into understanding. The mind gradually reorganizes emotional experiences as time passes. Some connections stay in memory, not to continue endlessly, but to shape understanding. They may influence how you see relationships, how you understand yourself, and how you respond emotionally in the future. Even when something feels unresolved, it does not mean it will always remain that way. The mind continues processing experiences in the background, slowly moving toward acceptance, clarity, or emotional release. What you feel is valid in the sense that it is real within your experience. It does not need to be denied or forced away. At the same time, it does not always need to be interpreted as something external happening in the same way you feel it internally. With time, emotional experiences settle. They do not disappear suddenly, but they transform. What once felt intense can become a calm memory. What once felt confusing can become understanding. What once felt heavy can become something you simply carry as part of your personal story. In the end, the mind continues to return to what it has not fully understood yet. When understanding grows, repetition decreases. When acceptance grows, emotional intensity softens. And when time passes, even strong emotional connections find their place within memory, without needing to control your present life.